Did you know there's a cruel price for becoming truly wise? Dostoevsky discovered that the more we understand life, the lonelier we become. And perhaps you've already felt this in your own skin. The invisible burden of knowledge. When we begin to truly understand how the world works, something strange happens. Superficial conversations start to bother us. Trivial pastimes lose their meaning. And that sense of belonging we had in social groups simply disappears. Dostoevsky, through his most profound characters, revealed a truth that few have the courage to admit. Wisdom isolates. Not because we become arrogant, but because our eyes open to layers of reality that most people prefer not to see. Think of Plato's cave allegory. The prisoner who escapes and sees sunlight for the first time can no longer be content with shadows projected on the wall. But when he returns to share his discovery, the other prisoners don't just reject his truth, they consider him insane. This happens because true knowledge isn't just information, it's transformation. And every deep transformation carries with it an element of existential loneliness. You stop speaking the same language you spoke before. Your concerns change. Your priorities reorganize. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky created a narrator who perfectly exemplifies this condition. A man who thinks too much, who analyzes every gesture, every human motivation, and for that very reason becomes incapable of participating naturally in social life. He sees through the masks we all wear, and this vision paralyzes him. But here lies a disturbing question. Is ignorance really bliss, as they say? If you've made it this far, you've probably already experienced moments of this intellectual loneliness. Maybe you've felt that strange sensation of being at a party, surrounded by people, but completely disconnected from the empty conversations around you. Or perhaps you've had the experience of trying to share a profound insight you had about life, only to be met with confused looks or uncomfortable subject changes. Dostoevsky knew this. He himself spent years in a forced labor camp in Siberia, where he had too much time to think, to observe human nature in its rawest forms. When he returned, he carried a weight that few could understand. There's a passage in The Brothers Karamazov where Ivan, the intellectual of the family, confesses to his brother Alyosha that he cannot accept a world where innocent children suffer. His brilliant mind leads him to question God's existence, divine goodness, the very moral structure of the universe, and this relentless search for truth consumes him from within. How many times have you felt like Ivan? Asking questions no one wants to answer, questioning truths everyone accepts without thinking. The loneliness of knowledge isn't just about being physically alone. It's about carrying perceptions that seem too heavy to share. It's about seeing connections where others see coincidences. It's about feeling the depth of problems that most prefer to keep on the surface. But there's something even more disturbing about all this. Sometimes we begin to question whether it's worth continuing to seek answers, whether it wouldn't be better to retreat to a more comfortable ignorance. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey of discoveries that few dare to make. Here we reach the heart of the problem. True knowledge doesn't just give us information, it transforms us. And every genuine transformation is irreversible. Dostoevsky understood that when our consciousness expands, we can no longer pretend that certain realities don't exist. We can no longer participate in social games without realizing they're just games. We can no longer accept simple answers to complex questions. Think of someone who has just discovered a devastating truth about someone close to them. Even if they choose to forgive, even if they decide to continue the relationship, something has changed forever. Innocence is gone. The gaze has become more penetrating, more cautious. The same happens with knowledge in general. Every profound book we read, Every insight we have about human nature, every moment of clarity about how the world works, separates us a little more from those who still live in previous states of consciousness. Dostoevsky showed this brilliantly in Crime and Punishment. Raskolnikov doesn't suffer just from the crime he committed, but from the impossibility of returning to the mental state he was in before committing the act. His consciousness expanded, and with it came an almost unbearable loneliness. But there's a crucial difference between isolation and productive solitude. The former is an escape, the latter a space of creation. Great thinkers, artists, and philosophers have always known that certain discoveries only happen in inner silence, away from others' opinions and expectations. The loneliness of knowledge can be transformed into a powerful tool of self-knowledge. When we stop fighting against it and learn to inhabit it consciously, we discover that within this seemingly empty space exist unimaginable treasures. Dostoevsky found in these moments of isolation the raw material for his masterpieces. He transformed his existential anguish into literature that still resonates with millions of readers around the world today. But there's an even deeper secret that few know about this journey. Here's the truth that can completely change your perspective on the loneliness of knowledge. It's not a destination, it's a passage. Dostoevsky discovered that there's a stage beyond intellectual loneliness, a place where wisdom doesn't separate us from others, but connects us with them in an even deeper and more authentic way. This stage is reached when we understand that our loneliness isn't exclusively ours, it's universal. All human beings carry within themselves a core of existential loneliness. The difference is that those who seek knowledge become more conscious of this condition. And when we realize this, something extraordinary happens. Our loneliness transforms into compassion. Our separation becomes a bridge. Our isolation turns into deep understanding of the shared human experience. Dostoevsky showed this through the character of Prince Mishkin in The Idiot, a man who sees through appearances, who understands others' hidden motivations, but who, instead of isolating himself, develops an almost supernatural capacity to love and understand. The loneliness of knowledge, when completely traversed, leads us not to cynicism, but to compassionate wisdom, not to intellectual superiority, but to profound humility before the complexity of existence. Dostoevsky's true message isn't that we should avoid knowledge to escape loneliness. It's that we must courageously traverse this loneliness to reach the other side, where a higher form of human connection becomes possible. This journey requires courage. Courage to be alone with our thoughts. Courage to question accepted truths. Courage to carry the weight of perceptions that others may not be ready to receive. But at the end of this journey, we discover that the loneliness of knowledge prepared us for a form of love and understanding that wouldn't be possible any other way. We learn to connect with others not through social masks or superficial interests, but through mutual recognition of our deep and complex humanity. Dostoevsky taught us that the price of knowledge is temporary, but its fruits are eternal. The loneliness we feel today can become the source of our greatest contribution to the world tomorrow. If you've recognized your own journey in these words, know that you're not alone in this solitude. We are an invisible community of seekers, scattered throughout the world, united not by physical proximity, but by a shared thirst for truth and meaning. Leave a comment telling which insight touched you most in this video. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of profound discoveries. And if you know someone who also carries the beautiful and heavy burden of constant questioning, share this message. Sometimes it's exactly what a restless soul needs to hear to keep walking.